Perfect Square, written and illustrated by Michael Hall. It was a perfect square. It had 4 matching corners and 4 equal sides. Just like our classrooms and how we have everything set up, and our school year was going along just perfectly. And it was perfectly happy. But on Monday, or let's call it March 13th, the square was cut into pieces and poked full of holes. It wasn't perfectly square anymore, kind of like our classrooms last spring. So the square, it made itself into a fountain that babbled and giggled and clapped. On Tuesday, or let's call it late March, the square was torn into scraps. We were told that we would have to begin going back teaching our students virtually online. So it made itself into a garden. And even though we'd never done it before, we did it, and our students came back to us virtually, and they began to grow again. On Wednesday, the square was shredded in strips. This is toward the end of the school year when we started talking about a hybrid model, or what school might look like in the fall. So it made itself into a park. All summer long, we've worked together talking about different ways that we could come back to school this fall. But then on Thursday, or let's call it July, the square was shattered. We found out that we wouldn't be coming back in person to start the school year. So it made itself into a bridge. This will kind of help us bridge the gap between what we usually do in the fall, but now it's going to be new and it will be something different. On Friday, the square was snipped into ribbons, and I think that's somewhere early August. So the square, it made itself into a river, and it flowed. Even though none of this felt quite like it usually does in the fall, we all jumped back into it, and we're just rolling along and trying to make it our own, turning virtual fall into something special. On Saturday, the square was crumpled and ripped and wrinkled. Once we get back into the classroom this fall virtually, it still isn't going to feel quite right. It's going to feel different than it did before, but it's going to be good enough, and we're going to be there supporting our students and their families, and they're still going to learn and grow. So the square, it made itself into a mountain. On Sunday, the square waited to see what was next. It waited and waited, and nothing happened. Its 4 equal sides were confining. Its 4 matching corners were rigid and cramped. So the square made itself into a window. It reimagined itself once again. And the window looked out on a mountain that gave birth to a river that was crossed by a bridge that led to a park that was home to a garden that had at its center a fountain that babbled and giggled and clapped. The end.